Flock, what is going on? How are you? Clinton Bonner for 3 in, 3 outs. As you all know by this point, or maybe you don't. Maybe you're brand new to it all, and that's fantastic actually. But maybe you're brand new and don't realize that this is written and performed and recorded exclusively for the Seahawks podcast. We dissect the Seahawks game and we look down the ledger and we say, okay, what were 3 things that kind of caught our eye on the good side? And 3 things that kind of made us want to vomit, puke, and go blah. So we're going to recap this Jags game. Last week there was so much good on the positive side of the ledger that it was actually difficult to come up with a third legitimate out. This week it's kind of a bit different where there's so many things that just kind of did not go the right way versus the Jags. Of course, we come away with a loss, and we'll go through it all. We'll get through it all. But let me tell you, there's 2 things in particular we're not going to discuss whatsoever. So I want to put that out there now. So if you're watching it and wondering, is he going to get to this stuff? The answer is no. I'm not going to do it. You guys can talk about this in your own time. One is the end of the game. I just don't care. I just don't care about the end of the game. These are grown men that get fired up. They're playing a passionate game. Listen, you don't want to be going at people's knees. Some dude throws a beer at you, I'd be pissed too. That's the bottom line. So we're not going to talk about the end of the game. I just don't care about that. A lot happened in the game that was way more important than the last 30 seconds. Other thing we're not going to canvas, so if you're waiting for this, I'm not talking about Blair Walsh. Blair Walsh is getting no love, and he's getting no hate either on 3 in, 3 out. My only thing I can say about Blair Walsh is I'm done with him. I'm done with him. Not worth our breath, not worth our time. It's unfortunate. He's our kicker at this point. We have no faith in him, at least speaking for myself, which is of course the person I can speak for. I have no faith in him, and he's not going to be on the outside of the ledger. He is just out completely. I have no faith in that guy right now, and frankly, I don't want him on the team at this point. But we are going to cover 3 real positive things we saw out there too, and we're going to cover 3 things that were these big head scratchers that go, man, if we only did this better, if we only competed a little bit harder on a couple of plays, we probably come away with a W. With all that, bottom line is the Jaguars, when they needed to move the ball, they moved the ball in our defense. They got big plays. They ran the ball when they needed to. And you know what? We go on the road, and we pretty much get our butts kicked. The game got close, but we pretty much got our butts kicked, and there's reasons for that. So let's dive into those reasons. Let's get the nooks. Let's get into the crannies. Let's get into it all. This is 3 in, 3 out. This is for the Seahawks fans. And you know what? We are still in this thing, by the way. It's not an in, it's not an out, but the Rams lost. Now they're coming to our house next week. Still fired up about that. Very fired up about that. With that, when we win, we start with an in. So let's be consistent. When we lose, let's start with an out. So let's get to our first out. It's a pretty big one. Might surprise you, so check this out now. All right, we're going to dive right into this first out. I'm on the road this week. I'm down in Manhattan. So you might have been like, Clinton really lives in a mediocrely designed room. Hey, check that out. Look at that. Look at that mediocre artwork right there, right? It's right behind me. No, I'm on the road. I'm in Manhattan for work, so I'm recording this Tuesday night after a day of work. But this is for passion. This is for love. This is why we do it anyway. And by the way, one quick thing, when Adam's on the road recording, he of course has the Hawk mic or Mike Hawk. Let's be very careful with how we pronounce that, shall we? Mike Hawk or the Hawk mic. I'd like to introduce you all, and I hope you're watching the video, to the one and only BB-8. So this is what I record with. It's a blue snowball. But I call him BB-8 because, if you're watching the video, then you just get it. If you're not watching the video, then do better. This first out, again, it might be a bit of surprise. And I need to preface this with saying, number one, this is the second time in, I think, 3 weeks that this player has ended up on the outside of the ledger. And number 2, I don't think I would ever even consider putting this player on this side of the ledger, except for I have to. It pains me. It absolutely pains me. This guy is one of my favorite Seahawks of all time. He's one of my favorite players ever. This is Doug Baldwin. So, listen, a couple of weeks ago on the Seahawkers Ring of Honor, which is on Facebook. So if you are a member of the flock, so if you are a listener to the Seahawkers podcast, and then you level up and you become a member of the flock, you get access to this amazing Facebook community, and we get together every single game, and it's just like watching with a bunch of friends who like to send funny gifts back to each other, and then lament, and then have some sorrow and some pain, but also lots of laughs and lots of joy too. I said a couple of weeks ago that I would bet a dozen donuts, jellied variety, a jellied donut, a dozen of them, maybe even a baker's dozen, in fact, that at the end of this season, we're going to hear that Doug Baldwin needs some sort of small tweak surgery. It's not just a gut thing. The man, in my opinion, is just a little bit off on his game. From where he has been in years past, last year, beginning of this year, there's something amiss with Doug Baldwin, and it just doesn't line up. And here's why. If he's not injured, then this is some like character thing. And I do not buy that at all. I just don't buy it. Knowing Doug, but knowing his work ethic, knowing what he's gone through from, undraftedness, and then watching some things happen this year, it's either he's got some nagging injury that's going to require some cleanup, which is where I bet my dozen jelly donuts, a baker's dozen, or he's not trying as hard as he usually does for his entire career. One of those two don't make sense. And I'll leave that to you. So in this game in particular, there were 3 plays in which I was like, man, I just don't understand what Doug was thinking there. So let's go to the most obvious. The most obvious is in that last drive, the last drive that Seattle had, Doug catches like a little out, and he's wide open. He's got like 2 or 3 yards just to plunge forward. And instead, with plenty of time on the clock, he scoots out of bounds. This is like second down. He scoots out of bounds with like 1 yard to go, stops the clock, and he's sure of the first down. And I think every Seahawks fan just sitting there going like, "K Lastima." It just did not make sense because you got to know the markers right there, and you've got to just go get that first down. The yardage and getting a fresh set, so much more important than anything else in that moment. That one, I don't know, chalk that up to it's like a mental error. That's not injury related in my opinion. The other 2 were both those interceptions. Now, don't get me wrong. This is not Russ does not deserve blame at all, et cetera, et cetera. He threw 3 picks, and all glory to Russ, and he can do no wrong. It's not that at all. It is not that at all. Look on both picks, I felt that the ball was where it needed to be. Look at the replay. Go watch the replay on the first ball, okay? The first ball, Baldwin has inside position. Ramsey, nudges through. Ramsey does what a good corner is going to do, and clearly he's a good corner. Ramsey just out-aggressivenesses him, right? And just takes the ball away. Baldwin needed to keep that better position, go up and attack the ball at the height, right? Go get it at the apogee. He did not do that whatsoever. First interception in the end zone. Jags get the ball. Another deep ball later, Baldwin kind of just stops his route. And Russ is throwing it deep, and Baldwin just kind of meanders at the end. He does not go up and try to go get it. He doesn't compete for it, in my opinion, whatsoever. Now, yes, it was a few yards past him, but that's because he stopped. He just like slowed down to a crawl. And if he just continues his route, even at the pace he was on, which was not a sprint per se, I think he's got a good chance to go up and go get a 50-50. In which case, by the way, usually it's you make the reception or it's an incomplete pass. So I thought in both of those interceptions, it should have been either Baldwin made a huge play or they were incomplete passes. Both times, it ended up being interceptions. And again, I'm not going to sit here and say Baldwin has lost an edge. I just do not buy it. So, the if P then Q or the modus tollens, I'm not quite sure which one's right there, but one of those is firing and saying, listen, it's not the fact that he's not competing at some level. Yeah, to me, he's got to be banged up. He's got to be nicked up and doesn't feel like he can go get those things without risking injury. Otherwise, it just doesn't make any sense. Then it says throw away years and years and years of what we know about Doug Baldwin and just say, he's not feeling it these last couple of weeks. It just doesn't add up. That man's dinged up, and it stinks. But At the same time, he's going to get the out here because I really felt like between both interceptions and then that play and that last drive when all he had to do was he just had to nudge forward, just had to dive forward. The first down was his. Changes the entire game, obviously. If we go get that first down, he didn't do it. Man, as much as this pains me, Doug Baldwin gets the out. So let's move on to an in, shall we? These are going to be some real, like, in a cool way, I think, some ticky-tacky ins. Because they were just some really, like, integral little things I thought we did that were so good. And it had nothing to do with these deep balls late in the game. And nothing to do with that. It was stuff earlier. It was stuff that put us in position to be winning this game. Sans some missed field goals like we talked about, and the fact that we can't kick 50-plus yarders. And we, like we said earlier, we're not talking about Walsh. He's not getting our breath, so I'm going to stop now. But the first in, okay, so looking at the notes real quick, we're down 10-0. There's 11:25 to go in the third quarter at this point. It's like, man, we haven't scored yet. And what I loved about this was we did this, I think it's like a 2nd and 9 play, I believe so, 2nd and 9 play, and we run this beautiful, beautiful jet sweep to Lockett. Lockett comes in motion, left side of the line, over to the right side. I'm sitting in my chair, start to creep forward going, I see it. It's just run so beautifully well. The perfect little handoff. He's around the edge, and away we go. So much momentum, so much is built right there in that one play. Later in that drive, Baldwin goes and makes a heck of a play. We just went on a 7-minute Oregon trail over there where I got dysentery, I lost an axle, I shot an ox, but the meat went bad, everything went wrong about Baldwin. Well, guess what? On this drive, after this awesome jet sweep, Baldwin makes a heck of a play to get us back in the game. Reminded me very, 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 very much of when we were down 10-0 in the NFC Championship game against the Niners, and Baldwin pulled, Russell and Baldwin pulled an amazing play out of their you-know-whats to get us back into scoring position. But in this one, we get this beautiful jet sweep. It brings all this momentum back. We get energy all of a sudden again. We get a great play to Baldwin now. The drive breaks down a little bit later, and we end up getting a good field goal from Walsh, and we get back to 10-3. Considering how we were moving the ball or not moving the ball, down 10-0, and it was just this beautiful execution, perfectly timed. And I know that might seem small. But guess what? The small things in life, they matter a whole lot. We'll get to this second out. So this is all about that first half in this one particular sense. Listen, I like aggressiveness. I love it, in fact. BEAGGRESSIVE, be aggressive, BE aggressive. I love it. Here's what I do not like. It happened not once, not twice, but thrice, right? Mr. Burns thrice. 3 times in the first half where we threw the ball on first down, incomplete. We get to 2nd and 10. I'm sitting there going, please don't run the ball. 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 I realized that was more than 3 times, but I said it multiple times each time. So, if you're doing the math at home, thank you. And, but each time I'm like, please do not run the ball. And what do? On 2nd and 10, we run the ball. These little draw plays where it's so predictable, and they go nowhere. So 3 times in a row in the first half, we put ourselves in this hole where we throw the ball on first down. I'm cool with that. I am not cool with following up an incomplete pass on first down with the most obvious run play on 2nd down, where we get little to no yardage because they know it's coming. They stack the box. They stuff it for 1 yard, no yards, and then we're in 3rd and long against a good defense on the road when we're losing the game already. So let me put this philosophy out there, right? If you're going to throw the ball on first down and you have an incomplete pass and it's 2nd and 10, you know what? Throw the ball on 2nd down and throw the ball on 3rd down if you need to. All right, flock. So there's this, probably little known Disney movie. It's a live action movie called Holes. I've never seen it. In fact, it's on Netflix. I see it there, and I'm like, I don't think I don't watch that. I guess it's pretty good. It gets pretty decent reviews, and the match, for me on Netflix is like 90-something% strong, and yet here I am saying I never watched it. But this is the holes in which we executed what was a 4-minute drill at the end of the half. Now this is when, if you just get back in your time machine, you put a little plutonium in the flux, and you're like, all right, bring me back there. This is when we ran the ball. We basically ran the ball for maybe 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes of this game very, very well. And that was in that last drive before the half, before our kicker blew a 30-some-odd yard field goal. That was awesome. But this is about the holes we were blowing up during that drive, and frankly, in a couple of other instances in the game. For the most part, Davis was kind of boom or bust, which, you know what? That's okay. If you average that out over a game and you've got, 6 and 7 and 8 yards here, and then you're stuffed at the line a couple times, that's okay. In that particular drive, we were just blowing up these gorgeous holes where Davis was not being touched for 2, 3, 4 yards downfield, and then his skills, he's making one cut, making two cuts, and he's gaining huge chunks. So this is a simple short in, but it's just like when we see that we can do that in the run game, that on first down we can run the ball effectively and get chunks of yards on first down, which then set up some better passing situations later. Man, I mean, you just wish we saw more of that instead of just during that 4-minute drill. But those holes, those Disney holes for the movie I've never watched and probably never will, but they were glorious. All those short-lived. It's just that inkling that it's there, and we understand that we can do that. Now it's a matter of, can we do that consistently? Can we do that against the Rams at home? Can we run the ball 28 times and get 120 yards on the ground? Maybe we can. Maybe we can. All right, Flock, we are back with our last out. We are calling this one Vanette in retrograde. And you might be like, wait a second, I don't remember seeing Vanette at all. Well, that's kind of the point. And it's not a knock on Vanette, but it's the entire out is about the tight ends unit, right? Because the tight ends unit, as they've talked a lot about on the Seahawks podcast, has kind of become a bit of the identity of this team in a kind of fun way, right? They got the Techno Thursday thing going with the short shorts, and then they got the pan flutes and the we could dance if we want to, doing the safety dance and the whole thing ready. It's a lot of fun, and they kind of just bounce around like a bunch of goofballs when they score touchdowns, and they've been scoring a lot of touchdowns. So we're calling Vanette in retrograde for like this entire just tight end unit. They just disappeared. They just were not there. Now here's the thing too. It's not just like, okay, Jimmy dropped a first down throw later in the game. It's not that. It's not that, okay, well, Luke really didn't do much and Vanette wasn't there. It's more like the color of money, right? It's like, it's in the way that you use it. So all week long, I'm always digesting all sorts of Seahawk content. So we've got, of course, the Seahawkers podcast, but I'll go read stuff on Hawk Blogger and just other places as well. And I think Hawk Blogger did a great job describing this defense and saying, hey, you can't throw, or let's put it this way, it's unwise to throw to the outside on the Jaguars. And the place to beat the Jags is down the middle, down the seam, just using tight ends or using slot receivers. We just didn't see a lot of balls going over the middle of the field. And it just doesn't make sense when you've got what are two very, very good corners on this Jags team, and we've got a great tight ends unit, and we've got some very talented receivers that could work in the middle of the field. And yet, most of the balls we're throwing are, outside and some outside deep shots for that matter. I just didn't understand this. So I'm going to put this a bit on the game planning, and then just, I'm not sure, maybe the tight ends just were not getting open enough. I don't know. I don't know where to pinpoint this. But, or I should say, in addition, maybe Vanette needs to be the number 2 tight end. Maybe we're a better offense when Vanette's number 2 and maybe Luke is 3. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to say I know for sure about that. But I do know the offense was humming a lot better when Vanette was the second tight end. So We're calling this entire out vignette and retrograde, but it's really about the lack of using the middle of the field when we know there are two really good corners out there. And the way to expose the Jags, as it's been shown, is to use the middle of the field, and we just didn't do it. Disappointing. That's the third out. All right, this last in might seem a bit weird, and that's okay. This show is kind of weird. Let's be fair about that. But what I really loved, in the moment was we were down 3-0 with 4 minutes to go in the second half, and it's just as if the game plan, the Seahawks game plan that we wanted to execute in the first half, it did exactly what we wanted to do. Now, for my 2 cents, we were too conservative in the first half, and we had that early punt where I was like, man, I really would have loved for us to maybe go for it there, or try the long field goal again for the player that's not on the outside of the ledger, but we'll mention for the 19th time as not being on the outside, but still being a big reason why we lost this game. Even with that, we defer the kickoff, and then with 4 minutes to go, it's exactly how you script it. You're down by 3, 4 minutes to go, and you deferred, so you're getting the ball in the second half, and we've got the ball. I mean, it is just exactly how it's scripted and why you defer and how you control a game even when you're on the road. This third in isn't some magic utopia Cinderella story here. It's just that the way in which we wanted to craft the opportunity, the way in which Carroll thinks about winning a road game, it did manifest itself. It was there for the taking. We had the ball with 4 minutes to go in the first half, and we were going to receive the ball in the second half. The in is just for sitting back, drinking a beer, watching this game in a Manhattan hotel, and being like, man, it's exactly what we wanted it to be. From the flock. So if you know about this section, I'll just go in and rip some commentary, some tweets, some Facebook posts from the Ring of Honor, from folks out on Twitter who are hashtagging 3i30 during the game, and I snapshot it or embed it, and I put the comments right below in this blog post. So if you're watching the video, scroll on down. If you're listening to the audio, then hike on over to seahawkerspodcast.com/3i30. Check out the post and look at the contributions from the flock. All right, so 1, 2, 3, what's next, right? I mean, this could not be more simple. Listen, this is the start of our playoffs, which, is kind of neat. Listen, we're 8-5. Do I wish we were 10-3? Of course. Duh, right? Of course, I wish we were 10-3. I wish we were 11-2. It ain't what it ain't, right? We're 8-5. This game, Rams coming to, the clink. This is the start of our playoffs, which is kind of neat because we get this run. We get this beautiful run for all the NFL has done wrong the last couple of years. And there is a laundry list of things the NFL has done wrong. Mainly, in my point of view, most of the stuff is just not teaching refs a couple things like what a catch is, and also all the tacky flags that just burden the game and slow the game down and sometimes make an amazing game hard to watch. But of all the things the NFL has done wrong, we always talk about the sober yin and the raging yang on 3 in 3 out, so we got to give credit where credit due. One of the things the NFL has done right is really reshape the schedule, so those last couple of weeks are these division games, and they just matter. They are awesome. So you end up getting a situation like this where we're 8-5, Rams are 9-4. We already have one win against them. They're coming to our town, and if we could win this game, then we're in the pole position to capture the division, get to the playoffs, and then try and go make some noise, right? So the playoffs start. For us, the playoffs start on Sunday. This is amazing. If we lose this game, highly likely, very likely, we don't win the division, and pretty darn likely we don't make the playoffs. It's almost heresy. If we win, brand new season. Season starts anew once again. Now listen, the Rams got banged up last game. I mean, everybody's talking about the Wentz injury. Terrible, terrible injury. Go look who the Rams lost. Go look at the guys on the Rams side that got banged up. They didn't come out of that war of attrition scot-free either. So the Rams are coming in hobbled. The Rams just lost a really, really tough game at home in front of their fake fans and the whole thing already, right? Now they got to come to the clink, and they're hobbled. Their O-line got banged up. They lost some big players. Listen, there's no Mama Cleo here. There's no massive prediction, but I just want to pour out the emotion that this is why we love, right? And when we lose, it hurts. It hurts when we lose. But you know what? Man, that's an okay thing, right? So there's an amazing Lumineers song out there called Stubborn Love. And the lyric is, it's better to feel pain than nothing at all. The opposite of love is indifference, right? That's not mine. That's some poetry by the Lumineers. We 12s, we Seahawks fans, we ain't indifferent. We are not indifferent. Our playoffs start on Sunday. And listen, if we need a deep, 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 deep playoff run, that's okay. Our playoffs start on Sunday. I don't know about you, man. That fires me up. I am freaking pumped. Our playoffs start on Sunday.